Welcome to Sci Fi Defenders channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The stars burned bright when the enemy came with only one demand: humanity must bow. But they never expected the Black Fleet to rise from the shadows. This is a story of war, courage, and the unbroken will of humankind. When the alien Overlord brought fear, the Sentinel awakened, and the Black Fleet answered. This 7-part sci-fi series takes you on an epic journey from Earth's last stand to the rise of a hidden power in deep space. A story filled with suspense, massive space battles, and the unshakable fire of human spirit. Prepare for war beyond the stars. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity fights back. The night sky was calm over Earth when the stars began to disappear. One by one they faded behind dark shapes, moving slowly above the world. At first, people thought it was a storm or a strange shadow. But soon every country saw the same thing. Black shapes like floating mountains were covering the stars. In New York, in Tokyo, in Cairo, in London, the same fear spread. People stood in the streets and looked up. World became quiet. News channels switched to breaking news. Soldiers ran to their bases. Pilots rushed to their fighters. Everyone could feel something heavy in the air high above the clouds. Massive alien ships surrounded the planet. Their surface was smooth, black and cold. They did not blink. They did not shine. They moved like silent predators watching their prey. The biggest ship opened its lower bay. A strange blue light spilled out, and a single signal reached every radio, every phone, every screen on Earth. The voice was deep, calm, and merciless. It said one line: bow or burn. No one knew the language, but the meaning was burned into their minds. The voice echoed across the oceans and cities. It made children cry. It made grown men freeze. It made leaders feel powerless. In the command center of the United Nations, the world leaders gathered. The President of the United States, the Chancellor of Germany, the General of India, the Prime Minister of Japan, and many others stared at the giant screen showing the alien fleet. Some wanted to fight, some wanted to talk, some wanted to surrender. No one agreed on what to do. Military satellites showed hundreds of ships in perfect formation. They had blocked every escape route from the planet. The alien fleet had arrived with precision. They did not ask again. They waited like hunters sure of their victory. On a quiet asteroid far away from Earth, a small forgotten base came alive. A red light blinked inside a dark control room. Old machines started to hum. A long, silent terminal woke from its deep sleep. A message appeared on the cracked screen. Activate Black Fleet. Deep inside the base, a group of old ships rested in silence. Their black armor was covered with dust. Their engines were cold. Their weapons were quiet. For many years they had slept hidden from the world, waiting for a day that everyone hoped would never come. The Black Fleet was not like the regular defense force. It was built in secret long ago by those who believed a threat like this would one day arrive. The fleet was the last card humanity never spoke about, a shadow force buried under stone and time. Far inside the asteroid, a man opened his eyes. Commander Arik Vane, once the most feared captain of the Black Fleet, now stood in the cold control room. The red light above his head flashed like a heartbeat. He had waited years for this signal. He hoped it would never come, but now it was here. Arik walked down the silent hallway. Boots echoed on the metal floor. He entered the command deck and touched the control panel. His voice was steady. He said, "One word to the system." Wake lights filled the hangar ships that had slept for decades came alive. Their engines growled like beasts awakening from a long winter. One by one they powered up their weapons. Turrets moved, wings unfolded. The black metal gleamed under the light on Earth. Panic grew louder. Governments broadcast messages telling people to stay calm, but fear spread like fire. The alien fleet began to move closer to the atmosphere. The sky turned darker as their shadows covered more cities. The sound of the deep voice returned. Bow or burn, Commander? Arik stood before the main screen, showing the map of Earth and the enemy ships. He looked at the numbers. They were many. They were stronger. They believed humanity was weak. He smiled, a cold, sharp smile. They had no idea what waited for them in the dark. He turned to his officers. Officers who had been sleeping in cryopods for years. Men and women who had sworn loyalty to the Black Fleet. They stood tall and ready. He said, "This is what we were made for. We were built to answer when the world cannot. We do not bow." The Black Fleet crew moved fast. Systems came online. Missiles, armed shields. Raised engines roared. The forgotten fleet was now awake. Back on Earth, leaders continued to argue. One wanted to surrender. One wanted to send a message of peace. One wanted to fight, but had no power. The aliens were not waiting. The largest ship began to charge a weapon. A bright red light grew under its hull. Every satellite caught the image. People screamed on the streets. The world was seconds from disaster. In that exact moment, a single black ship broke away from the asteroid base and entered hyperspace. It moved like a shadow slicing through the stars. It carried Commander Arik Vane and the first answer of the Black Fleet. The alien commander watched from the bridge of his flagship. He saw a small black shape appear on his radar. He laughed. A single human ship against the Obsidian Dominion. He believed it was a joke, but the small shape did not run. It came straight toward them. The sky over Earth turned silent. All signals focused on that one small ship. The alien commander gave the order to destroy it, but before his cannons fired, the black ship vanished from his sensors. It moved faster than light. For the first time, the alien commander felt something strange. Not fear yet, but something close to it. He whispered to his officers, "Find it now." The people of Earth watched the screen. A black shadow was moving. It was small, it was alone, but it was the first sign that humanity was not finished. It was the first sign that someone had answered the ultimatum. The message of the alien fleet was clear: bow or burn. But the answer from the dark was even clearer. Humanity does not bow. The battle had not started yet, but the Black Fleet was awake. The storm was coming. The sky above Earth was still dark. The alien ships moved slowly like sharks, circling their prey. The largest ship hovered over the Atlantic Ocean. Its shadow covered entire cities. People stared at it with fear in their eyes. The alien voice had spoken once, and the world had no answer. Yet something was moving in the darkness. Of space far away from the planet, the black ship of Commander Arik Vane came out of hyperspace. Its engines burned blue light against the endless black of space. The ship looked small compared to the massive alien fleet, but it carried something. More powerful than size, it carried purpose. It carried the fire of resistance. Inside the alien command ship, the supreme overlord of the Obsidian Dominion stood on the bridge. He was tall, with silver skin and burning yellow eyes. His voice was cold, like metal. He asked his officers, "Where did it go? Find it now." The small human ship had disappeared from their radars, and that made him uneasy. At the same time, in the hidden base on the asteroid belt, the old hangar doors opened wider. Dozens of dark warships began to rise from their cradles. Engines growled. Shields came online. Systems lit up. The Black Fleet had slept for decades, but now every part of it was waking like a sleeping giant commander. Arik's voice came through the comlink. "Ship status report." Crews responded one by one, confirming systems active, confirming weapons ready. Their voices were strong and steady. They had waited a long time for this day. They had trained for a war that most people believed would never come. Arik looked at the screen showing Earth. The alien fleet was tightening its grip around the planet. They were preparing for invasion. The governments of Earth were still arguing. One nation wanted surrender. One nation wanted negotiation. One nation wanted to fight, but had no power. None of them knew the Black Fleet was alive again. Inside one of the Black Fleet ships, a woman named Captain Lyra Kane stood on the bridge. Her crew worked with silent focus. She was once a fighter pilot who vanished from the world when she joined the secret fleet. She had no family left, no past left. She had only this mission. She said to her crew, "Today we make them remember who we are." The Black Fleet began to form up in combat formation. Their black hulls reflected, no light making them invisible against the dark of space. The main carrier ship, named Iron Knight, stood at the center, surrounded by destroyers and frigates. Their engines burned softly, their weapons waited in silence. Back on Earth, panic spread governments, launched evacuation drills, civil defense alarms rang across cities, but there was no place to hide. The alien ships were everywhere. They blocked every satellite, every signal, every path to the stars. People believed the end was close, but hope was quietly rising beyond their sight. Commander Arik sent a signal to the world leaders through a secure channel. The screen in the United Nations war room suddenly lit up, showing his face. Some leaders recognized him. He had been a ghost for years. One said he is supposed to be dead. Arik spoke with no fear. "Do not bow. Do not surrender. Help is coming." Before the leaders could respond, the signal cut. The Black Fleet did not wait for permission. It never did. It existed to defend, not to ask, in the alien flagship. The Supreme Overlord watched as his ship surrounded the small black dot again. He smiled a cruel smile, believing the fight was already won. But something strange happened. His sensors started losing the signal again. One by one, his scanners went blind. It was like the human ship had. A second later, 3 more black ships appeared near the alien fleet. They moved like shadows, swift and silent. Their engines did not scream, their weapons did not flash. They were ghosts in the dark. The first wave of Black Fleet ships opened fire. Energy blasts hit one of the alien scout cruisers straight in the core. The cruiser exploded in a burning ball of fire. The Overlord roared, "Find them, now!" The aliens returned fire, but there was nothing to lock on to. The Black Fleet disappeared between shots, appearing behind enemy lines, striking again and again. Each hit was fast, clean and deadly. They were outnumbered but not outmatched. They were hunters now. On the ground, people watched in shock as the live satellite feed showed bright flashes. Above the atmosphere, they did not know who was fighting. They only saw alien ships burning and falling from the sky. Hope spread like a spark inside a storm, one small spark that can start a fire. Inside the Iron Knight, Arik stood tall as his officers called out enemy positions. His calm voice guided every strike. Every maneuver was sharp, precise, planned years ago for this moment. He had no time for fear. Fear was for those who had something to lose. He had already lost everything. Captain Lyra's ship flew straight through a group of alien drones. She locked her weapons and fired. All 3 drones exploded into silver dust. She smiled for the first time in years. It felt good to fight back. The Supreme Overlord watched the battle with growing anger. He had not expected resistance. He had not expected ghosts from the dark. He ordered his main ships to charge their primary weapons. He wanted to end this quickly, but the Black Fleet was already fading into the shadows again. The first skirmish was over. The alien fleet was damaged but not destroyed. The Black Fleet was alive but not safe. Both sides were testing each other like wolves, circling before the real fight. Commander Arik gave the order, "All ships fall back to base." We hit them again. Soon the Black Fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind nothing but broken enemy ships and fear inside the alien ranks. Back on Earth, people stood under the dark sky, staring at the burning pieces falling like shooting stars. Someone whispered, "They are fighting back." Inside the alien command ship, the Supreme Overlord slammed his hand on the console. He spoke to his generals. "Bring the entire armada. We crush them completely." On the asteroid base, the Black Fleet returned to prepare for the next strike. The hangars echoed with voices loading weapons, checking systems, sharpening the blade for the real war. Arik walked across the deck and said to his crew, "This is just the beginning. They came to make us bow. We will show them what happens. When humanity stands, the ghosts had returned and the storm was growing stronger. The black ship drifted through the void like a hunting falcon. Commander Arik Vane stood on the bridge of his warship. His eyes were fixed on the red circle glowing on the screen. It was the enemy flagship, the heart of the alien armada. It was time for the first strike above Earth. The alien fleet spread across the sky. Their massive black and silver ships blocked the sunlight. Their engines burned a strange green light. The people below stared at them with silent fear. They saw no hope. They saw no savior. They did not know what was coming from the darkness. Inside, the alien command ship, the Supreme Overlord, gave orders. His voice was cold. His confidence was unshaken. He believed the humans had no real power. His fleet was the largest invasion force in the galaxy, and Earth was only a small world to conquer. But he was about to learn what a single human strike could do. Commander Arik's voice echoed. "Through the comlink of the Black Fleet, all ships hold position. My ship will strike first." Captain Lyra's face appeared on the screen. Her voice was sharp. "Are you sure you want to go alone?" Arik nodded. "One blade is enough to cut the throat if it hits the right place." The Iron Knight moved toward the enemy lines. Its engines were silent. Its armor was black like the void. It carried no banners, no warning, no light. The alien radars searched for it, but the ship was hidden under layers of shadow. Technology. It was the ghost of war inside the alien fleet. A young alien officer noticed something strange on his screen. A tiny flicker near the flagship. He shouted at his commander, "Sir, unidentified object on scanner." The commander laughed. A single ship. He did not understand what it meant. Arik gave the order. "Lock on the flagship, fire control ready." A red light flashed on the weapons console. The missile tubes opened slowly. The ship aimed at the weakest part of the alien flagship. The weapon was not big, but it was precise. It was made to pierce, not to burn. The countdown began. 10-9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The missile launched. It cut through space like a spear. The alien sensors detected it too late. The missile slammed into the side of the flagship near its energy core. A massive blast followed. A bright red and gold explosion filled the sky. The alien flagship shook like a wounded beast. Alarms screamed inside their command bridge. On Earth, the people saw the explosion through live satellite feed. A ball of light burst in the sky. The alien flagship did not fall, but smoke and fire surrounded it. For the first time, humanity cheered. A single strike had broken the silence. A single strike had shown that the enemy could bleed. Inside the alien flagship, the Supreme Overlord grabbed the edge of his chair. His eyes burned with anger. His voice roared across the command deck. "Who dares?" He looked at the screen, showing the black ship moving away like a shadow. His heart felt something new, rage and fear together. Arik's ship turned sharply. The alien fleet opened fire. Hundreds of energy beams crossed space like rivers of fire. The Iron Knight danced between them. Shields flared, engines roared. It moved like a predator too fast to catch. Captain Lyra's fleet moved closer but held position just as Arik ordered. The Black Fleet was not ready for a full battle yet. This was only a strike to break the enemy's pride, a message in fire and steel. The alien ships chased the Iron Knight. They were fast, but not fast enough. Arik's crew worked in silence. Every turn was planned, every shot was measured. The ship slipped between enemy formations, disappearing again and again. The Overlord ordered, "Send drones. Send interceptors. Bring it down now." Thousands of small hunter crafts rushed out of the alien ships like a swarm. They surrounded the Iron Knight from every side. Arik looked at the tactical screen calmly. His pilot said, "We are surrounded." He replied, "Then we cut our way out." The ship's side turrets opened fire. A storm of bullets and plasma cut through the alien drones. One by one they exploded into silver ash. The Iron Knight spun and dove through the enemy ranks like a black arrow in the hidden base of the Black Fleet. Captain Lyra watched the feed, she whispered under her breath. "He is still the best." Arik's name was spoken with both fear and respect. He had once led entire battles alone. He was the tip of the spear, and this was his battlefield. Above Earth, the alien fleet was shaken but not defeated. The flagship burned but held position. The Overlord raised his hand and gave a new order. "Send everything, all fighters, all ships, crush it." The sky turned bright as thousands of alien ships lit their engines. The Iron Knight was a small black dot in a sea of green light. It looked like the end inside the Iron Knight. Arik looked at his crew. They waited for his order. He spoke slowly. "This is what they think victory looks like. Let us show them what it costs." He turned the ship back toward the fleet. The alien commander expected it to run, but it charged instead, guns blazing, shields burning. The Iron Knight flew straight into the heart of the swarm. A second missile flew from its hull. It hit another cruiser and turned it into fire. The Overlord stared at the burning ships. His claws tightened around the railing. He had never seen such defiance from a single enemy. He felt something sharp in his chest, something he did not want to name. It was respect. Arik knew he could not stay forever. The enemy numbers were too large. He shouted to his pilot, "Jump!" The ship charged its jump drive and vanished from the battlefield in a flash of blue light. The alien fleet searched, but found nothing. The ghost was gone. The battle ended as quickly as it began. 2 alien cruisers destroyed, 1 flagship wounded, no Black Fleet ships lost. A message sent on Earth. People shouted in the streets. They had seen the impossible. A small human fleet had faced the monsters in the sky and survived. Hope was no longer a whisper, it was a fire. In the alien command ship, the Overlord stood alone on the bridge. His voice was cold. "Bring the full armada. No more warnings in the Black Fleet." Bazarik stepped out of his ship. His uniform was burned at the edges. His hands were steady. His voice carried across the hangar. "Prepare everything. Next time we strike harder." The first strike had begun. The war had started. The alien fleet spread across the black sea of space like a living wall. Thousands of ships formed rings around Earth. Their engines burned with green fire, and their weapons aimed down at the planet. Below them, the cities slept in fear. Above them, the Overlord prepared. For the next step, he had lost ships but not his pride. He wanted blood. The black ship Iron Knight floated in the shadows far beyond the reach of enemy scanners. Commander Arik Vane stood on the bridge with his arms crossed. His crew worked without a sound. Every face was calm, but their eyes burned with fire. The first strike was done. The world now knew they were not alone on the alien flagship. The Supreme Overlord stared at the damage on his main screen. The wounds from Arik's missile were still visible. His engineers worked to repair it, but the scar would remain. He clenched his silver claws and gave the order, "Find the Black Fleet, hunt them down, tear them apart." Hundreds of alien scout ships broke formation and spread into deep space. They searched every asteroid belt, every moon, every shadow. But the Black Fleet was nowhere to be found. The aliens did not understand. They were fighting a fleet that did not need to be seen to win. Inside the Iron Knight, Captain Lyra stood beside Arik. Her voice was quiet. They will search everywhere. Arik nodded. Good. Let them waste their time. We are not hiding. We are waiting. Far below on Earth, the people watched the sky. Through broken windows and old screens, news channels repeated the same words, the aliens are coming. Leaders gave speeches full of empty hope. They did not know where the Black Fleet was, but they felt its presence like a silent guardian in the dark. In the hidden base, the rest of the Black Fleet prepared for a new mission. Their ships were being armed with heavier weapons. Their engines were being tuned for speed. Their shields were reinforced. The engineers moved fast. They knew time was short. The Overlord would not wait long before he struck again. Commander Arik gathered his officers around the table in the war room. A single map of the alien fleet covered the wall. Every movement was marked, every weak point circled. Arik pointed at the outer ring. They will tighten the net around Earth, but this net has holes. We will strike here and here. We will not fight their strength. We will fight their blind spots. Captain, Lyra asked, what about the energy core of the Iron Knight? It is unstable. Arik's face turned hard. We will hold as long as we can. We were not made for safety. We were made to protect. The officers nodded. They had all sworn the same oath long ago. No surrender, no retreat, no fear. Out in the void, a small group of alien ships flew close to an asteroid field. Their scanners showed nothing. Their commander felt safe, but deep inside the rocks, the Black Fleet waited. Engines cold, weapons ready. They watched in silence as the alien ships moved closer. Arik gave the order. Engage. The Black Fleet moved like shadows coming alive. Their ships slid out of the rocks like black knives. Their engines did not scream. Their guns did not flash until the first shot hit. One alien scout ship exploded before it could even react. The others panicked, firing in all directions, but they hit only empty space. The Black Fleet was already gone. The Overlord slammed his hand against the command chair when he received the report. He shouted at his officers, they fight like ghosts, they strike and vanish. His fury filled the entire bridge. He was not used to an enemy that refused to stand and die. The Black Fleet kept striking the alien scouts one by one, never staying long enough to be trapped. Each attack was fast, clean, and silent. One strike near the moon, one strike in the asteroid belt, one strike in the shadow of Mars. The alien search net began to fall apart piece by piece, but victory had a cost. Inside the Iron Knight, the energy core was burning hotter each time the ship used its cloaking system. The engineers warned Commander Arik, if we keep pushing the core, it will not hold forever. Arik looked at the glowing blue core through the glass. He whispered, we hold as long as we must. On Earth, panic and hope mixed like storm and sunlight. Some people prepared for the worst. Others raised their eyes to the sky, waiting for another flash of black ships. Some whispered the name Black Fleet, like a prayer in the alien flagship. The Supreme Overlord changed his plan. He pulled his scout ships back and formed a new ring closer to the planet. If the ghosts would not show themselves, he would force them out. He ordered his weapons to aim at the largest cities across the globe. He was ready to burn the planet, if it brought the Black Fleet to him. Commander Arik received the signal through the fleet's hidden channels. The Overlord had set his trap, but Arik had expected this. He walked onto the bridge of the Iron Knight and spoke to his crew. We will not let them touch our world. We do not need to be stronger. We only need to be smarter, Captain. Lyra gave the signal. The Black Fleet began to split into smaller groups. Each group vanished into the void, moving like smoke through the darkness. Their target was not the Front line, but the heart of the enemy's power. Their plan was clear: strike their control, strike their fear. The alien fleet closed its grip around Earth, but their scanners showed nothing. They fired warning shots into empty space, but hit nothing. They were surrounded by shadows, and they did not know it. Inside the alien flagship, the Overlord's eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. The silence around him was heavy. He could feel the enemy, but not see it. It made his blood cold. He raised his hand and shouted full alert, but his voice came too late. The Black Fleet appeared behind his outer ring and fired in perfect formation. Dozens of alien cruisers exploded at once. Their burning wrecks lit up the dark sky. The alien fleet turned in. Panic trying to locate the attackers, but the shadows were already gone. Commander Arik's voice filled the bridge of the Iron Knight softly. One strike at a time. That is how you break a wall. The people of Earth watched the sky light up once more. They did not understand the battle, but they felt hope growing like fire in the cold night. The alien Overlord clenched his fists. His perfect invasion was cracking at the edges. He could crush armies, but he could not fight what he could not see in. The Black Fleet base. Arik stood with his officers staring at the tactical map. It showed dozens of weak points, now glowing red. He said, "The Shadow War has begun." The storm in the void was far from over, but the Black Fleet had turned fear into a weapon. The sky over Earth was no longer silent. The alien fleet moved in closer each hour. Their giant black ships floated like predators ready to strike. Their engines burned green light, and their weapons aimed at the cities below. The world held its breath, waiting for the next command from the invaders. Deep inside the Iron Knight, Commander Arik Vane stood on the bridge. His eyes were cold but steady. The map before him showed every enemy movement. Every ship that burned in the dark was marked in red. The Black Fleet had won small victories one after another, but Arik knew the war was far from over. The Overlord was changing his strategy on. The alien flagship, the Supreme Overlord, paced across the command deck. His claws scraped the metal floor. His anger was sharp and cold. He had lost ships to shadows and wanted to crush the ghosts. He turned to his officer. "Bring me their world leaders. If the Black Fleet will not bow, maybe their own people will break them." The alien communication wave hit every channel on Earth. It carried the same message: "This is your last chance, bow or burn." The cities below saw the green light gathering around the alien weapons. Panic spread faster than fire. Governments called emergency meetings. People flooded the streets in fear. Inside a hidden bunker under the capital of the United States, a group of powerful leaders gathered. Their faces were pale. Their hands shook. They had seen what the aliens could do. One of them said in a broken voice, "If we give them what they want, maybe they will spare us." Another slammed the table. "They will not spare anyone." Far away from them, a single man in a dark suit watched the live feed on a private screen. His name was General Cole. He was once part of the Black Fleet program, but he left many years ago. His heart was full of fear, not courage. He whispered to himself, "If they win, I will die with everyone. If I help them, maybe I will live." That night, Cole sent a secret transmission to the alien fleet. He gave them the location of one of the Black Fleet's hidden bases. He thought no one would ever find out. He thought he was saving himself, but what he did was open the door for Disaster Commander Arik was on the bridge of the Iron Knight when the alarm screamed. "The base is under attack," Captain Lyra shouted. The alien fleet had struck with perfect precision. They knew where to hit before anyone could react. Green fire lit up the blackness of space. Alien cruisers swarmed the hidden base. Missiles rained down like fire. Arik watched in silence as his screen showed the destruction. A hangar exploded. A supply ship broke apart into 1,000 pieces. Crew members screamed through the comm lines before the signal went dark. Arik's hand tightened into a fist. The enemy should not have known that location. Someone had given it away. He turned to his crew. Evacuate the base. Get the survivors out. Captain Lyra's voice broke for a second. We cannot save them all. Arik's voice cut through the noise. Save who you can. The Black Fleet ships rushed out of the shadows to defend what was left of the base. They fired on the alien attackers with everything they had. The battle was fierce, bright and bloody. Alien cruisers fell. Black Fleet ships burned. The void became a storm. On the alien flagship, the Supreme Overlord watched with a smile. The trap had worked. He spoke softly. They are strong, but they bleed like all things, back on Earth. The leaders received another message from the alien. Commander, your defenders cannot protect you forever. Choose wisely. Surrender or watch your world burn in the chaos of the Iron Night. Captain Lyra found the transmission logs. Someone from Earth sent the base coordinates. She ran to Arik and placed the file in front of him. His eyes narrowed. A traitor! Arik said the word like a blade cutting through steel. Meanwhile, General Cole sat alone in his private bunker, thinking the aliens would keep their promise. He imagined himself safe while the rest of the world burned. He did not see the alien drones already circling his location. To them, he was nothing but a tool commander. Arik gathered his officers. The traitor has given the enemy our blood. We must move fast before the fleet falls, Captain. Lyra clenched her fists. We find him, we end this. The Black Fleet pulled back from the burning base. A few ships were left behind to hold the line. Their sacrifice gave time for others to escape. The hangar lights of the Iron Night glowed red as survivors were brought on board. Some were wounded, some were silent, but none had lost their will to fight. Arik stood in front of the crew and spoke loud enough for every ear in the ship. They think this betrayal will break us. They are wrong. We fight harder now. Alien Overlord believed the Black Fleet was weakened. He ordered his ships to close the ring around Earth even tighter. He wanted to crush them in one final strike. But inside the Iron Night, a new plan was already forming. Arik looked at the stars. On the screen, his voice was low but strong. We will not let this war end in their hands. We take the fight to the heart of their fleet. On Earth, people saw the burning pieces of the destroyed base falling through the atmosphere. They thought it was the end. But Arik's voice came through hidden channels to the leaders. You are not alone. We are still here, General. Cole stared at the alien drones outside his bunker. His heart filled with regret. He realized too late that the aliens had no mercy. The drones cut through the doors, and the signal went silent. In the alien flagship, the Overlord looked at the burning base and whispered to himself, "They will break soon." But he did not know the Black Fleet had already set their eyes on his command. Ship in the dark hangar of the Iron Night. Captain Lyra and Arik stood side by side, their faces hard but unbroken. The betrayal had cost them blood, but it had also given them a reason to strike harder. The Black Fleet was wounded, but alive. Their blades were still sharp. Their fire still burned. Arik looked at his crew and gave the order, "Prepare for deep strike." The betrayal had opened wounds, but those wounds would become weapons. The wreckage of the Black Fleet base drifted through space like broken bones. The alien fleet moved closer to Earth, tightening its grip. The Overlord believed victory was near. He watched the burning pieces and smiled. He thought the ghosts were finished. He thought humanity would finally bow, but far beyond the orbit of Pluto, a place slept in silence. A place no one alive remembered. A massive structure the size of a moon floated in the cold black. Its surface was covered with ice. Its towers reached into the stars. Deep inside, something old was waiting. Commander. Arik Vane stood on the bridge of the Iron Night. His face was cut and tired, but his eyes burned with fire. The betrayal had cost the Black Fleet many lives, but not their will. His officers stood around the map of the solar system. They knew they needed something more. Something powerful enough to break the alien wall around Earth, Captain. Lyra spoke first. We cannot win this with what we have left. Arik nodded. I know that is why we are going there. He pointed to a point far beyond Pluto. The room fell silent. That place was a legend, a ghost story told in the training halls of the Fleet Project, Sentinel. Long ago, before the Black Fleet was built, a secret group of scientists and warriors created something far greater, a machine of war. Hidden in the dark, waiting for the day, humanity would face a storm. It could not survive. No one had ever seen it. No one knew if it still worked. But now it was their only hope. The Iron Knight jumped into hyperspace. The engines roared like thunder. The ship moved through the endless void until the dark moon of metal came into view. Its black towers rose from the surface like frozen spears. Its center glowed faint blue through the cracks of ancient ice. The crew stared at it with wide eyes. Captain Lyra whispered, "Is it real?" Arik answered. It was always real. As the ship approached the surface, lights began to flicker inside the structure, as if the place was waking from a long sleep. The Iron Knight landed on a massive platform covered in frost. Arik and his team stepped out into the silent structure. Their footsteps echoed through the metal halls. Ancient machines stood around them. Cold and still in the center of the main chamber, a giant core pulsed slowly with blue light like a heartbeat. A voice spoke through the walls. "Welcome back, Guardians of Earth." The crew froze for a second. They were not alone inside this place. Arik stepped forward. "We need your strength." "The enemy is here," the voice answered. "The enemy is known. War was always coming. This weapon was built for this day. Do you wish to awaken the Sentinel?" Arik looked at Captain Lyra. She nodded without hesitation. He turned back to the core and said, "Yes." The ground shook. The walls lit up like a storm. The ice cracked and fell away. Towers of metal unfolded like wings. A massive shape rose from the surface. It was not just a weapon. It was a warship, the size of a continent. Its black armor shone under the weak light of the distant sun. Its engines hummed. With power, the Sentinel had awakened on the alien flagship. The Supreme Overlord watched the strange energy spike near Pluto. His officer shouted, "Unknown power detected." The Overlord turned toward the star map and narrowed his yellow eyes. "What are they doing out there?" He sent a scout fleet to investigate, but deep inside, he felt something cold crawl into his chest. Inside, the Sentinel Arik and his crew ran across the newly awakened halls. Old control panels turned on ancient weapon systems came to life. A soft, deep voice followed them wherever they went. "Guardian protocol active. Earth must not fall." Captain Lyra stood on a high balcony looking down at the massive ship dock. It could carry the entire Black Fleet inside it. She whispered, "To Arik, this is more than a ship. This is a fortress." Arik placed his hand on the railing. "No, this is the blade that cuts empires." The Black Fleet arrived one by one through hyperspace. Their damaged ships docked inside the Sentinel. Their engines were repaired, their weapons rearmed. The survivors walked across the glowing metal floors and felt something new for the first time since the war began. Real hope. On Earth, the alien fleet moved lower into the atmosphere. The green light from their weapons burned across the night sky. Cities prepared for the worst. Alarms screamed, governments begged for time. The alien commander's voice returned, "Bow or burn." But the Overlord did not know the storm that was rising behind him. His scout ships reached the edge of Pluto's orbit and saw the dark shape moving in the void. They tried to send a message, but their signals were cut off. One by one, the scouts vanished from the radar inside. The Sentinel commander, Arik, stood on the command bridge. He wore a black combat suit with the emblem of the Black Fleet on his chest. Captain Lyra stood beside him. The massive warship floated above Pluto like a sleeping beast ready to hunt. He raised his hand and said, "Power to all systems." Lights blazed across. The Sentinel engines ignited like suns, weapons hummed like thunder shields, unfolded around its colossal body. The ship began to move toward the alien fleet, like a storm crossing the sea. On the alien flagship, alarms screamed. The Overlord stared. At the massive, dark shape approaching, his officers whispered in fear. "What is that?" The Overlord clenched his fists. "A weapon. It does not matter, we crush it." Like the rest, Arik's voice echoed through the Sentinel bridge, lock on their outer ring. Fire at will. The first wave of heavy cannons fired bright blue light across the stars. The shots slammed into the alien cruisers and ripped them apart. Entire sections of the Overlord's fleet exploded at once. The aliens fired back, but their beams bounced off the Sentinel's shields like rain against a mountain. The Overlord had never faced a weapon like this before. His confidence cracked for the first time. On Earth, people saw the sky light up again, but this time the fire was not green. It was blue. They watched the alien ships shake and burn. They did not know the name of the weapon above the stars, but they felt its power, Captain. Lyra turned to Arik with a smile. "We are not the hunted anymore." Arik stared at the battlefield. "This is the beginning." The Sentinel moved like a beast reborn. The Black Fleet followed in its shadow. The Overlord watched as his armada was pushed back step by step. His perfect wall around Earth was breaking apart. The awakening of the Sentinel had changed everything. The ghosts of humanity were no longer hiding. They were coming for the heart of the enemy. The alien fleet burned across the edge of Earth's orbit. Their perfect wall was breaking. The dark shadow of the Sentinel moved like a silent storm. Through the wreckage, its engines glowed blue like stars. The Black Fleet followed behind it, like wolves returning to the hunt on. The bridge of the Sentinel commander, Arik Vane, stood tall. His hands rested on the control table. His voice was cold and steady. "All ships form the spear. The enemy will not leave this sky alive." Captain Lyra gave the order to the fleet. Her eyes burned with fire. The ghosts were no longer hiding. This was their moment to strike on the alien flagship. The Supreme Overlord stood on a black platform, staring at the growing storm on his screen. His fleet was falling apart faster than he had imagined. The scouts were gone. The outer ring was in flames. His second commander spoke with fear in his voice. "They are coming straight." "For us," the Overlord answered, "then we stand and crush them all." The Sentinel turned toward the center of the alien fleet. Weapons hummed like thunder under its black skin. Hundreds of smaller Black Fleet ships lined up around it, like a wall of steel. Fighter wings launched from its hangars, filling the space with burning trails. The humans had been cornered long enough. Now they were the hunters. Arik raised his hand and spoke to the entire fleet through the comm. "We fight for every city, every soul, every memory they tried to burn. We are the Black Fleet. We do not bow today. We answer." His words rolled through every deck of every ship. Soldiers and pilots screamed with one voice for Earth. The first wave of the assault crashed into the alien. Fleet cannons fired blue fire that cut through their heavy cruisers like blades through glass. Alien ships exploded one after another. Pieces of burning metal spun through space like dying stars. The Overlord watched in disbelief. The enemy he thought was broken was tearing through his armada like a storm. The alien fleet tried to push back. Their massive guns lit the void with green light. Their beams slammed against the Sentinel's shields, but the fortress held strong. Blue light shimmered across its armor as it pushed forward. One Black Fleet destroyer was hit, but instead of falling, it rammed itself into an alien battleship and took it down with it. Every ship was ready to give everything. Inside, the Sentinel Captain Lyra stood at the tactical screen showing the battlefield. It looked like a storm of fire and light. She shouted at the crew, "Shift power to the left shields. Bring the cannons." Around now, the ship answered like it was alive. Towers on its surface moved. Heavy guns locked on the alien flagship. The Overlord gave the order, "Fire everything." His fleet unleashed a storm of green energy against the Sentinel. The bridge shook. Arik gripped the railing. The walls groaned under the impact, but the ship did not stop. Captain Lyra wiped blood from her forehead and shouted, "Shields holding." Arik gave a small smile. "Then we end this." The Sentinel's main gun began to charge. A deep sound filled the air like a heartbeat growing faster. The core at its center turned bright blue. The alien flagship focused its fire on the glowing tower, trying to stop it, but it was too late. The gun released a beam that split the darkness in half. It cut through the alien flagship's shields like paper. The Overlord's ship was thrown back into the flames. Fighter wings of the Black Fleet swarmed around the alien ships, picking off their weapons one by one. The alien formation fell apart. They were not the hunters anymore. They were trapped between the Sentinel and the fury of humanity. The Overlord stood in the wreckage of his bridge. Smoke filled the air. Sparks fell from the ceiling. He stared at the growing shape of the Sentinel on his broken screens. For a moment the Overlord understood what humans were. They were not weak creatures to be ruled. They were fire that refused to die. On Earth, people filled the streets watching the sky. Streams of blue light burned through the black night. They saw alien ships explode in silent fire. They saw human ships rising from the darkness. They shouted and cried with hope. They had feared the end, but now they saw their defenders answering back. The Sentinel closed in on the alien flagship. Black Fleet destroyers formed a circle around it. The alien ships tried to run, but hyperspace was cut off. The trap was complete. Arik spoke into the comm to the entire enemy fleet. "This is your only chance. Stand down or be erased." The Overlord gave no answer. His ship fired one last desperate volley. The beam hit the Sentinel but did nothing. The Black Fleet answered with everything they had. Hundreds of cannons roared together. The alien flagship broke apart in a burst of green and black fire. The alien fleet lost its leader. Chaos spread through their ranks. Some ships tried to flee, some surrendered, some kept fighting, but it was over. The Black Fleet pressed forward without mercy. The sky above Earth became their battlefield, their shield. And their victory on the bridge of the Sentinel, Arik watched the last alien cruiser burn. He let out a long breath. Captain Lyra stood beside him. She whispered softly, "It's done." He turned to her. "No, it begins here. They will come again. But now no Earth will never bow." The battlefield was silent, except for the distant fire of dying ships. The Sentinel floated at the heart of it like a black sun. The Black Fleet surrounded it with their scars and their pride. They had lost many, but they had answered. On Earth, sirens went silent. Crowds lifted their heads to the stars. Children pointed at the blue light with wide eyes. For the first time in years, there was no fear in their voices. There was hope. The enemy who demanded their surrender had been crushed deep in the void. A signal echoed across the stars, far beyond the galaxy. A warning was sent to others. The humans had awakened their blade. They had answered. Commander Arik stood alone on the command bridge. He looked down at the planet that had almost fallen and spoke softly to the empty stars. "Let them come. The Black Fleet will always answer." The stars above Earth burned bright. The war was not the end. It was the beginning.